Making muslins or test versions for pants is a thing of the past. It's been done and now the real pants have been made and I'm very excited to share them with you. This is a review for Let's Sew Easy Pants mini-series. Keep watching. Hi sewing friends, I'm Karina from liftingpinsandneedles.com. Welcome to this channel that is all about sewing, limitless sewing, and in this specific video about pant sewing. I have been on a journey along with all of you, and making pants has taken over a little bit since sort of mid-May with the Let's Sew Easy Pants mini-series I have been running on the channel. There are already 6 episodes up and they take you from choosing patterns to choosing fabrics, how to measure yourself, how to compare those measurements to the pattern that you've chosen, how to make changes in these patterns for all types of uniqueness that your body might have. You know, your rise might be shorter or longer than the patterns. The curves on these pants, the front and the back, can maybe not match your body. So many things that can be customized to you, and I have gone over a whole variety of them along this series. I have been sewing a lot of these blue pants. I think some of the ones you've seen have also been green. Look, these are completely massacred. I did simulate fitting issues with them, so I sort of made them fit myself in the wrong way to show you how it looks and then how to fix them. So they make absolutely no sense. I have been simultaneously making muslins and test pants for 3 patterns. During this period, you know, I have a pile of fake pants on the floor and it's time to sew the real ones. Super exciting, because when you know that you've adjusted the pattern to fit you right, you don't have to worry about that anymore when you grab your nice fabric and you start making the real deal. So these last couple of days have been very, very exciting, and for the next few videos you will be seeing some pants. I will be making a specific video for each pattern because they are different patterns, and as such they have needed different things to be done to them in order to fit me, and all these things can help you see maybe in a different light how patterns can be adjusted to you, breaking down names of adjustments and what you might think of your body or what others might tell you about your body. So I hope this is really helpful for you. Way back in the series, on the video where I showed you how to measure yourself, in that one I showed you my measurements and then compared them to the measurements of a pattern. I showed you how to measure a pattern. The pattern I was working with at that time was the one I'm going to show you today. Those are the Arden Pants from Helen's closet. I did mention this in my very first video where I recommended 5 easy pants to make, and the Arden Pants was in that list. I like the style. It's very simple. It looks like an easy type of pant to sew and sort of easier to fit as well, and that's why I chose it as one of the ones I was going to work with. After I printed it out, there were certain aspects of just looking at it that made me think, yeah, this might suit my shape more than others I have already printed out. So the Arden Pants are just your regular elasticated waistband. They have different hem options, just a classic hem, normal hem, and then you can also finish these with a cuff, you know, one that's narrow and one that's wider. Usually these cuffed type woven joggers pants are really not my style, so I'm just looking at the classic one for now. There are slash pockets in the front, patch pockets in the back, an optional drawstring, you know, at the waistband. And from the liner, you know, when you look at these pictures here, they seem to be hitting below the natural waist. From what I can see, you can see the waist dips in and then the waistband is shown on the liner below. In the pattern itself, it's not actually written there what the intended fit is, but you know that these types of pants that you just pull up, it's debatable to where the waist really is. It just depends on you and where you want it to be on your body. All the pants I'm mentioning and all the series is based on woven pants, and these are woven pants. You know, you can make them in linen blends, cotton blends, rayon, tencel twill, that type of fabric. I don't really like the stiff cottons. You know, I would like a mix of rayon and cotton, for example. And the fabric I have chosen to make mine is a linen blend. It's 55% linen, 45% rayon. And it is a nice blend. It looks just like linen, but it's a bit softer and it drapes a little nicer as well. It's not so stiff. although it still creases like crazy because, you know, rayon creases and linen creases, and you just mix them up and it'll keep creasing. You can see here that the sizes come from sizes 0 to 30 US. When you purchase this pattern, you get all the sizes included in the file. You don't have to look at separate drafts. And you can see the measurements there on the waist go from 24 to 48 inches and the hips from 33 to 58 inches. The reason I chose this pattern to, you know, work on first also was that I like that it has positive ease at the hips, but not that much. It's only 2 inches of positive ease, which is a really nice amount of positive ease I like on pants. It makes them not tight, but it doesn't make them baggy either. So I think it's like the sweet amount of ease that I like. That's why I started working on them first. In the pattern instructions, there's a little paragraph there above the size chart where it says that you should choose your size based on your waist and then blend up and down for your hips. But I don't really agree with that, because if you have a larger waist to hip ratio where your hips are 2 or 3 sizes larger than your waist, if you choose your pattern based on your waist, so you choose that waist size, let's just put random numbers. Let's say you choose a 14 for the waist and then you choose an 18 for the hips, and then you draw your lines and you blend everything. You know, when you try to pull your pants up, that waist circumference there is not going to fit your hips, so you won't be able to pull them up. So I really don't agree. And you know, all the other patterns that I've seen that are pull up like this, they all recommend choosing your size based on your hips, because you know, you are pulling them above the hips. So that waist circumference there, when it's stretched before the elastic, has to be at least the size of your hips. You know, you could get away with maybe 1 or 2 inches smaller and you could like shimmy in through the side, you know, but it has to be pretty close. I would say just choose on the hips. It's the safest way. You know that when you pull up your pants, you know, they are going to go up over the hips, and then you can adjust the waist with the elastic. That's very customizable to you. Just make the elastic tighter or looser to make it fit you. So I would say choose by the hips, not by the waist. I'm trying to give you like all the inside knowledge about this pattern. On the size chart, you will see a measurement there of the front rise only, not the back. And it also says there that this is without the waistband being on. So I don't think it's that helpful, because you need to know how wide that waistband is and where it's going to hit on your body. And that's why, you know, when I show you how to measure yourself and how to measure the pattern, you always see me pinning on the waistband, you know, to the front and to the back, removing that seam allowance there where you unite those two pieces so you can have the full length. So giving you a measurement without the waistband, how are you going to measure that on yourself? You would have to go and do even more maths. So I would say if you want to measure your pattern, just pin on that waistband as if it was sewn, you know, take away those seam allowances and measure with the whole thing and compare that to your body, rather than looking at the measurement there, because it's only a partial measurement. The waistband is not included. But when you wear pants, the waistband is included into where it hits your body. I hope you get what I'm saying. I'll move to the side so I can put a diagram there. This diagram is a summary of my fitting adjustments, and I would consider these very minimal fitting adjustments and very sort of common for me. The blue lines that you can see on the front and the back, you can see that they extend from seam to seam, from side seam all the way to the center back and the center front seams. And that's where I added 1/2 inch, and that's to add to the rise front and back. And I know that from measuring myself and comparing to the pattern, also having the ease that I want in the pattern. I wanted 1/4 inch of ease at the front, and I wanted 1/2 inch of ease at the back. You know, for all these measurements, you can go and see this video that I'm showing you on the screen. In this video where it shows you how to lengthen and shorten the rise, this is where I show you all the nitty-gritty of how I got to my measurements and what I had to add. But that's the blue line that you can see across. You can see that this involves the side seam, but it involves the side seam in the same amount for the front and the back. So when you sew your side seams, they're not going to be uneven. You're not going to have one shorter than the other. They are the same. The thing is, I needed to add 1/2 inch for the front, but I needed to add way more for the back. I needed 1.5 in total to add to the rise on the back. And so that's where I slashed all the way to the seam line, not to the edge of the paper, to the seam line. That was my hinge point, and that's where I spread apart. You can see in red there that I added an inch. So those are the adjustments I made, and they are very, very, very typical for me for lots and lots of patterns I've made before in different amounts, but sort of the same similar concept. So that is what I needed for my body. The crotch curve on the front was sort of the right shape for my body, and so was the one on the back. Down below you can see I needed a lot of length added. I have longer legs and I needed to add 3 inches. Now if you need to add or remove that amount, that is quite considerable, it's best to remove it in 2 separate areas, even 3 separate areas if it's more than that. That way you won't deform the shape of the leg that much. That's why above the knee notch I cut apart, spread and added an inch there, and then below on the leg there's actually a shorten and lengthen line on the pattern, and that's where I added 2 more inches down lower on the leg, and that's how I added 3 total inches of length to my legs. Now if you were shorter, this pattern is drafted for a woman that measures 5'6", and you might find that these pants are too long for you. You might need to overlap instead of add, where I've done that. And if you need to remove a lot of length, I would recommend doing it in a similar way. Just choose 2 areas around the leg and do it in 2 separate areas. That way you can true the seams nicely and the leg shape will sort of stay unchanged mainly. Now this pattern style does taper in at the leg, so it's not like you can just add or remove from the hem. That will really deform the shape of the legs. So it's not a really good idea to do that. It's better to do it above, like along the length of the whole leg. Now about the sewing is so fun. It is so simple. I have created little diagrams from just generic pants, and I'm going to show you the order of events. There's lots of methods you can use to sew pants, and they can be in different order. The order that this pant has is very typical, and you'll see it in a lot of patterns. Basically, you sew the front pockets, you sew the back pockets, you have your legs completed with the pockets done. Then step number 1, the general step, is to sew the crotch seams, the front and the back. You just put them together, you sew the front, you sew the back with the seam allowance that the pattern tells you. You serge those, then you unite them at the inseam, so you will do the whole inseam of the pants. You sew it at the seam allowance, you serge it or finish it with zigzag, whatever method you're using to finish seams. After sewing that inseam, this pattern tells you to top stitch, and I did just do a little bit of top stitching, just 1 narrow row. I didn't want to go that crazy with the top stitching, that is personal preference. You can opt to not top stitch at all, After doing that, you just align and fix your pants, and then you sew the side seams, easy peasy. After that's done comes step number 4, which is just putting on that waistband. In Up Close and So Personal, I am showing you how to sew the pockets on the front and the back. A little trick to save fabric with the front pocket, because it's just 1 whole piece and it's a very big piece meant to be cut out of your main fabric. I never like doing that. It just wastes so much fabric, and I don't want to have linen pockets that will stick to each other inside and create bulk. So I've got a little trick there for you to try if you like it. Otherwise you can just make it like the pattern says. And I'll be skipping steps 1, which is sewing the front and the back crotches, and I'll be skipping step 2, which is sewing the inseam, because those are very simple things. And I'll be picking up the sewing when I'm top stitching that inseam, and then taking you all the way to the end of the pants, except for the hem, because that's very simple too. So there's lots of sewing to see. Very fun video, and a very cool way to unite the ends of the elastics. That I've adopted that idea from a pattern I made in June. So let's hop into the practical sewing. What can I do? Time flashed by and I woke up on the other side of the moon. These are my pants in 165 centimeters or 1.8 yards. That's the back. You can see those are adjustments there. That's the front over there. That is the pocket and the waistband pieces. And this is the pocket piece. It's super big. You're meant to do it all in the main fabric. It's just 1 pocket bag that folds over. That's the part that's sewn onto the front slash area. And I've folded it just to make sure that the area I've drawn with the blue line will be covered by the entrance of the pocket, and I'm going to be cutting this small area out of the main piece, and then from the other piece I'll be doing it in a lining fabric, and I'll be adding seam allowance there, 3/8 on each side, uniting them together to make one full piece, only that it will be composed partially of the red linen and partially out of the lining fabric I want to use. It will reduce bulk and also save me fabric. I make sure that this little piece is also on the grain line correctly, and then I sew them together, 3/8 seam allowance, sort of like a curved seam there. And just be careful, I did add the seam allowance correctly, and when you do that you end up with really nice trued lines like that. You can see on the side it's all very neat. And then that one just needs to be serged together nice and neat, and then I'll have a pocket piece that is exactly the same as the original, only it'll be part linen, part lining fabric. Two are the front legs here, and on this side is where I stabilize the opening of the slash pocket onto the linen on the pant, and I have the pocket pieces on top just matching the slash line there. Now remember, I'm cutting my pocket bag mainly out of lining fabric, and I cut a small piece here that will be the one seen on the hip. And it's just to avoid bulk and to avoid using my linen on a pocket bag. I never like doing that. So I've got these pinned, and I want my beautiful lining fabric to be seen on the inside. So I've got this area wrong sides to right sides. It's sort of wrong, I mean it's usually right to right side, but I've got it wrong to right sides there. When that's sewn with 3/8 seam allowance and flipped in like that, the ugly part of my lining fabric will be inside where you put your hand and no one sees it. And when this comes over here, that's what's going to be seen on the inside, the nice part of the lining fabric. And that's how it's going to look on the outside. You know, the linen there will complete the hip area. I have them pinned. I will sew with this up and this down. You know, this is satin. This area of the slash is cut on the bias. This can stretch really badly, but you can pin it back into shape, and the feed dogs will help it conform to this size. And because this one's stabilized, it's nice and firm, it's not going to stretch out. I would never skip stabilizing the entrance of these types of slash pockets, because all this area is cut on the bias, so it's always a good idea. After sewing this, I have trimmed the seam allowance of the pocket bag just to half. I think 3/8 is okay, I don't need to trim more than that, but I did trim that away just to reduce bulk. So now I want to understitch all the seam allowance towards the pocket bag. So I'll just push it this way and then sew on the edge there to make sure that my colorful pocket lining is not going to be seen. Okay, so this pocket bag can be folded to the inside, and you can see how the understitch is going to keep this inside, so that's good. After understitching, I folded that in, and now I'm going to top stitch. Just because there's top stitching there doesn't mean that understitching should be skipped, because understitching will keep this inside. If you just fold it along the edge and top stitch, you might still see this. Doesn't look very nice. I'm just going to do one row at 1/4 inch, and I'm using my 1/4 inch foot. Okay, so that looks nice. It's got 2 rows inside and just 1 on the outside. And now we can assemble the pocket bag. And now all you need to do is fold this back on to itself, and at the bottom you're going to see that this matches here. See the shape on the bottom matches perfectly, that curve. So you need to match these on the bottom and sew them together and serge them. See how that matches perfect? This is how one leg looks on the inside. You can see my red area that I added The rest is just lining fabric in satin that matches this. I've got the right side of the fabric on the inside so I can see it. And now this was just folded onto itself. And here on the front, on this area, there's a notch there, black mark, that should match the entrance of the slash. And then on the side, you just have to match everything up. So I'm just going to go ahead and baste here on the hip and here on the waist. And then I can forget about these. These are done. And then you can just assemble the pant. After sewing the front and back pockets, now we can just sew the crotch curves, the front and the back, just sew them together, serge them, and then join the inseams. One continuous go, 5/8 of an inch for all these seams, serge, and now I am top stitching that inseam. I'm just doing the same discreet top stitching I did for the back patch pocket, just one row on the edge using the edge foot. I've gotten a lot done with the pants. These are the back patch pockets there. I've sewn the crotch curves front and back separately and serged the edges, and then I did the inseam as you saw. I just did one little edge stitch there, just one row of top stitching. Then I did the side seams. This is the waistband there. It's just a simple waistband that you fold over, wrong sides together. It has side seams that were sewn there with 5/8 seam allowance as everywhere else like that, and these side seams of the waistband need to match the side seams of the pants right there, so I'll just pin that. Make sure the side seams are headed towards the back of the pants, so I've got them both matched there on the side seams, and then I'm just going to pin all the way around, and around here on the back, around this area, I'm going to leave a gap that's not sewn, and through that little hole through there is where I'm going to insert the elastic and then close it up and then serge all the way around. It's the easiest way you can put a waistband in actually. This is around the back, that's the side seam there, the seam allowance is pointing that way, that's the pocket, so I'm going to start around there, and then when I get to the other side I'm not going to completely close it, I'm going to leave a gap. These horizontal pins are the only ones I try to sew over because I really want these seams to match. So I do it carefully. There. And you know, if I have to lose a pin and get it crooked, that's fine by me because it means I'm going to get a really even seam there. They're both going to match. This is where I started, and I'm just going to stop there, leave a nice little gap. This is the waistband sewn on, and this is the opening I've left here, right there, so you can actually put your finger through to the waistband. And I have my elastic, I measured it around my waist and just took it a little bit more tighter so that it's comfortable. And it will fit in there perfectly. I have a safety pin, and when we unite the elastic, you're going to need a piece of woven in the way that I'm going to do it. This is something I've adopted from another pattern and I really like it. So the piece of woven fabric has to be sturdy and sort of the same width as the elastic. So I'll just leave that for now and just start putting the elastic through there with a big safety pin. And I mean, this is quite boring. I'll show you when I'm at the other side. I've got it pinned there so it doesn't get pulled back in there, and I've just touched and made sure that the elastic didn't twist inside. And I've got it coming out through the other side, and I've also pinned it there to make sure it doesn't get pulled in. And now I've still got loads here. What I'm going to do is align these together there and put this woven fabric behind it. So they need to be right against each other right there. And now on the sewing machine, I'm going to sew all the way around here, and that's going to reinforce this without needing to overlap the elastic. So inside it will feel really flat. There will be no like thicker bulky area that you would find sometimes when you overlap it and then sew it together. And pin this now and just try to pull more elastic out of there. Yeah, I think that's best. And then you just push it back into the casing. So just sew around there. Doesn't need to be pretty. I've just sewn all the way around there, did a zigzag to like flatten that area there. So that zigzag is just trying to cover both of these edges. And you know, you can trim away some of this cotton fabric at the back. It doesn't need to be there. And now you have this really sturdy union of the two elastic ends without bulk and without overlapping. And so now you can just let these go back into the casing. They'll go in easily. That little opening just needs to be sewn, and then this edge all serged. My elastic is really flimsy, and when I pull the pants up and down it tends to fold, so I will need to top stitch it down. And from the edge I'll just sew 1/2 inch in, and then from that one 1/2 inch again, and then I'll have 2 rows. Very boring. You just need to stretch this and sew without actually pulling on the machine. Just keep it nice and straight there. So I'm not pulling it, I'm just keeping it straight like that, but I'm not actually trying to push this along. See how that's already sewn, and then I'll just go around and then again, and I'll have 2 there. If you were putting a drawstring, that middle one would be the casing, but I'm not doing that for this pair. Now, there were things I've shown you there that are not in the instructions, like stabilizing the opening of the pocket on that slash area, the understitching, you know, little bits that I like to add in there from my own spin on sewing. You know, I like to do that. I like to give you a little bit of extra. And, you know, you can take those ideas and apply them to these projects, similar things that you're doing. After a while, you know, you might start to see a pattern of things, you know, and they really do give nice results when you sew. This pattern has different seam allowances in different areas, and that is good. You just have to pay attention to the instructions. You saw me sewing some things at 3/8. The pocket piece. It's a square, well, it's a rectangle. You're supposed to fold these in at 1/2 inch. But I found the pocket a little bit small when I pinned it onto my muslin to check where I wanted it to be on my body, and thought, oh man, I already cut the fabric. So I folded them in by 1/4 inch, not by 1/2. But that's just personal preference. I just found the pockets small for, I don't know, for my height, my shape, whatever. I found them small. But you know, if you've made a muslin, don't miss the chance to pin the paper on and see where you want them to be. I found them to be too low for what I wanted, and I just pinned them up higher. But anyway, the red linen is never a bad idea for me. This is darker. It's looking quite red on the screen. I'm not sure why, but it's actually quite dark red. And I have another pair of red pants, the Pietra pants, but they are actually a lighter tone of red. And it's not bad to have pants in 2 different shades of red, because sometimes I have tops that don't match the exact shade of red. So yes, and these are very nice. I love making them. I did not do a drawstring. There's an option of doing 2 little buttonholes if you do want to do that. Now, if you do want to do that, mark your buttonholes and interface that area before you do the buttonholes. that will make the buttonholes stronger, and then you can put your drawstring through there. If you want to see how to do that, I did show that on the video about the Allegro Bottoms. I made skirts and I showed how to put the drawstring. It's the same thing, only I didn't do it on this one. I did have to top stitch this elastic. My elastic is flimsy and it folds. It's, you know, you'll most probably have to top stitch that down. Pocket entrance there. Inside, I don't have the main fabric there. I have lining fabric. It's very light and soft. It slides inside. They don't stick to each other. And I have the ugly side of the fabric in there. And you saw that I united there. So I have a piece of linen there, just on the area that you'll see. But way inside too, like the linen comes like around there, and then the rest is the other fabric. And I like doing things like that because I don't want to use my linen on a pocket bag. I just don't, you know. Very simple on the front. I didn't top stitch these crotch curves, although the pattern says to do a double row like in jeans. I don't like doing that. I mean, I like doing it in jeans only, not in other things. So the seams are plain. The pockets are there. I did subtle top stitching, just one narrow on the edge. You know, I wouldn't want to make pants that don't have pockets. If it's a print, I don't really care if the pockets are there because no one will see them. But on a solid, there needs to be pockets. So I'm glad that there was a pocket there. Some patterns don't have them. You know, you can just draft it yourself and just put a pocket or get a pocket from another pattern, you know. I think a solid does need it. The hem is, well, the hem looks creased because I had them folded up. But it's quite a wide, deep hem allowance. I didn't fold it in by 1/4 inch and fold twice. I think that's bulky. I just serged it and folded it up and top stitched. Nice and neat. I have them at full length. I needed 3 extra inches to achieve that. But I also like folding them up and wearing them at the ankle. So I have the option, you know, whatever I want to wear, I have the option. And I'll show you how they look on the inside. It's so pretty. Now this fabric, this satin, is just a piece of scrap I've been hoarding, and I knew it was going to be nice for something. And it's so soft, you know, when you put your hands in there, it's like you're putting your hands into silk. But it is satin. It's so soft and it's so pretty, and it matches the pants. I wanted the pretty fabric to be shown there. Here you can see the seam where I did that little cut on the piece and just added seam allowance, sewed them together. It makes absolutely no difference to the construction method or to the fit or anything. And, you know, pocket bag is not linen. So that's it. That has been serged there and sewn there. I think I didn't film myself sewing it, but it is sewn and serged. And then just, you know, your seams, super simple make, super fast, and having fitting totally out of the equation just makes it so nice. It's like a relief because you know that you're sewing and they're just going to fit. Now this construction method is really hard for you to fit them onto yourself, because if you've already sewn the inseam and top stitched it and then sewn the side seams and the waistband, and then you try them on and you think that you need to do fitting adjustments, it will be a nightmare. Because what would you do if you need to fiddle with the inseam and you've already top stitched it? So, you know, those are the risks that you take sometimes if you don't want to make a muslin and you just want to make the pants with nice fabric. I think you should be aware of the risks of having to unrip a lot and just spend a lot more time than what it would take for you to make a quick test pair, a quick muslin. I mean, these horrible things take no time at all to make or cut. I mean, they are so fast. Long stitch length, you're just flying over these seams, and they give you so much good information so you can adjust your pattern and you don't have frustrations of making pants with nice fabric that then you can't fix because you've already cut them out in a shape that's not going to fit you. So yeah, just I would say just make the muslin. I have invested in about 10 meters of terrible fabric. I am so happy I did, because I have made so many muslins with this stuff They are totally unwearable, but I don't care. They were never meant to be wearable. It's not a waste in my opinion. They are so good. They've given me so much. I've learned even more about my body than I already knew. You know, it is changing all the time. It's not always the same, and making all these test versions has been very, very worthwhile, if you ask me. Here are my Arden pants. I've made them full length, but I've got them folded up like 2 or 3 times to have them 7/8. And I love that length, and I also like having the option of having them full length as well. And I really like the look. All those muslins were worth it. I'm very happy with these pants. They're not tight, they're not loose. I think the tapering of the leg is just right. Got one of my La Belladonna tops that I made the other day on because it's got matching colors. Here you can see this area. I'm really happy with the fit at the front right there. There's no excess fabric. The rise is just the right length. My waistband is hitting right above my belly button where I like it to be. There's the elastic that I top stitched. The entrance of the pockets there, the slash, nicely top stitched. And at the back, the patch pockets, I did sew them on a little bit higher than the markings on the pattern. I don't like pants that are made out of solids that don't have pockets, so I'm glad these are there as an option. You know, you always have a bit of wrinkles at the back. You know, they're not supposed to cup the bottom like fitted pants. And the length of the waistband up here is good that I can move and sit and not be uncomfortable. So I am very happy, you know, having the muslin done and the fit done makes the sewing part of this super fast because you're not actually fitting while you're sewing, you're just sewing. Very nice. And I'll be proud to wear these out any day with the fabric that I like, and red is always a good option. Very happy with these and proud to wear them out. I will make them again, and as I mentioned, I will be showing you completed pants that I'm happy with the fit for the next couple of videos. Different brands, you know, even a free one is going to be in there, so you can see and you can have different options or get ideas what pattern you might like to try. I have been having a lot of fun doing these, and now that I'm at the stage of actually making them, I am super excited. You have no idea. I have really nice fabrics picked out, so I'm very excited to be sharing them with you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon. Bye.
Ooh.